So I'm going to just go into some of the book notes that I've written from the Castro. And this is like a major selling point that you're going to do for your clients, anybody that's paying you to do a website. You're going to make their page so they'll get higher on the Google and search engine listings, and that's going to make their pages more valuable. And clients will appreciate this right away. First of all, on page 363, she talks about meta tags. Now, I don't introduce meta tags until 2 or 3 more weeks, but just keep in mind that meta tags are real important. And the most important is the description meta tag. If you look at any website, and I'll just quickly go out to the Computer Careers website, so that's southcentral.edu/cc. And if I go view page source, and here at the top you can see that I have keywords. They're not as important anymore, but I have a description here. And the description, it talks about you want to do your keywords first, so what's most important. And you can put anywhere from 100 to 200 words in here. But you put the most important first because you don't know where the search engines are going to chop this off. So kind of put this in your memory banks just for a few seconds. Computer careers, start a long-term career at South Central College, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Everybody have that in their mind? So that's our description meta tags. You see the meta tags? They're up here in the head. Who can tell me what meta stands for? There's meta thinking, there's meta tags, there's metadata. About something. So if you're thinking about thinking, that's meta thought. If you're describing something about your web page, that's a meta tag. And if you're describing something about data, what do you call that? What's data about data? Metadata. Yeah, so meta thinking, meta tags, metadata. As you work more and more with technology, you're going to hear this word meta more and more often. And it's just, it's information that describes other information. All right, you probably lost that little short-term memory thing. Let's go back to that description. Computer careers, start a long-term career at South Central. All right, everybody have that in their mind? So now I'm going to go out to Google Land, and I'm going to do a search for South Central Computer Careers. Let's see if that's good enough. Look at this. Computer Careers Home. And right below it, this is my introduction to anybody that types in South Central Computer Careers. Look what it says. Start a long-term career at South Central College in Computer Careers. 2-year degrees available in programming and networking support. And blah, 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 blah. Notice they cut it off, but this is exactly my first impression that I make on anybody that types this in. And then you can look further down and you can see our other descriptions further down. So you can see how important this is. I'm also pleased to see we're at the very top of the list when we typed it in. Now, what did I type in? For an SEO expert, search engine optimization, these are called keywords. And keywords are the words that people are going to think of when they want to find out more information about your site. Oh, that was pretty interesting. So keywords are going to play a really, really important part in how you set up your SEO. So does everybody see why that description meta tag is so important? The search engines are going to grab it out and use it as your first impression on the search page. And now think about when you all do searches, what do you look at? You look at the topic, the title, and then you read that description. You scan through the descriptions really quick, right? And that makes you decide if you're going to click on that link or not. absolutely crucial to get people to come to a website. All right, Elizabeth Castro is right on top of her game here. Page 362, she talks about keywords. Well, I have the keywords still sitting up here. South Central Computer Careers. Think about what you type in into Google when you're looking for something. And keywords are exceptionally important. Now, here's what Google does. And when I say Google, I should say just search engines in general. But Google's the one that set up these original formulas and this whole concept that we now use for search engines. Yahoo, Alta Vista, Dogpile, what's some others? Even AOL, and it's it just bought Huffington Post, but even AOL, what's another one?
Funny story about AOL is I guess they did a study, it's like 89% of their total revenue comes from like services that people don't actually need anymore. They just don't know it.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
they pay $20 to get their email, but they don't really need to pay $20 for it.
And then get it free with Gmail. Yep. Interesting. So, but what these search engines used to do is they would categorize everybody's web pages by categories. And then Google, the two guys from Google came out and they came up with a new formula. And they says, well, why don't we take the popularity of a web page and run it through a mathematical formula. So all of a sudden, keywords started playing a really important part. So here's what happens. Google goes into a web page, or the regular search engines go into a web page, and they look first in the title. And they say, probably, if this page is designed properly, the keywords are in the title. And if you look at my titles for South Central Computer Careers, you'll see that we have South Central and Computer Careers in the title. Then they go down and they look for the first H1. And remember, the H1 isn't the biggest thing on the page, it's the main idea. You can change an H1 and make it really small. You'll find out how in a week or two with CSS. But H1 to Google and the search engines means what's the big idea? And guess what you want to put in the H1? You want to put in your client's keywords. So in this case, we'd want to put in South Central Computer Careers. Then it looks in the H2 and it sees how many keywords are in the H2, and then it scans the rest of the page looking for these keywords. Now, if you have your body all cluttered up with HTML markup like color and background color and align and all these old tags that are styling your page, you're basically watering down your SEO, because it's what Google does is it looks for the keywords and then it compares your keyword density with the whole page. And if you have a whole bunch of extra HTML on your page, then it's going to water down and it's going to be a low percentage of keywords on the page. That's what made CSS so popular. We moved all our style stuff up in the head, and that doesn't play in the formula anymore. So now we just have pure text on the page, and Google gives you a higher rating on your keywords. So who's going to determine the keywords? Yeah, you are, and your clients, or whoever you're doing the web page for. And it's your job as web developers to guide them and get this principle across to them. Now, believe me, it doesn't take them too long. They know what their keywords are. I mean, you can ask any faculty in computer careers, and they'll tell you our most important words. Anybody that has a business, Jared, your dad has a painting business, right? What would your keywords be?
Painting.
Painting, what else? Interior, exterior? What's the name of your company? All right, so those are some keywords right there. Now, do you all remember the alt tags? Well, what were the alt tags for on images? If the image doesn't display, it shows the alt tag. What's another purpose for the alt tag? So blind people can can see or hear what that image is about because they can't see the image, they're blind. So, blind person. And what's the third reason for an alt tag?
Maybe if your image is a hot map, the link can go through the alt tag.
No, you don't want to do that, Nico. No, you don't want to do that. You could do a hack like that, but but you're going to see it's going to ruin this whole really cool formula called SEO. Describe the image, but for what purpose? Did anybody think, can Google see images? Oh, Google is like blind. All Google looks at is the text on your web page. It's just looking at the HTML code. It can't see images. It can only see text. So it's scanning your text file that you think of as a .html, and when it gets to an image, all it has for information is the alt tag. So instead of, like if on my clients, I have a disability planning specialist, and instead of saying, this is David's picture, or a pic of David, I say, David Riedstrom, President of Disability Planning Specialists. Guess what my keywords are? Disability Planning Specialist. So, and then on the Vice President, I say, well, this is, Joe Smith, and he's Vice President of Disability Planning Specialists. Well, boom, I just got in my keywords in 2 more places on the web page. Now, that doesn't show up on the web page for people that are looking at images, but if they mouse over, more importantly, if Google comes through and scans the page, Google's going to read that alt tag and pick up those keywords. So do you see how you want to sprinkle your keywords throughout your page? But there's a gotcha too. You don't want to overdo it, because if you cheat, Google's going to knock you off, blacklist you, and you will never get back on. Google is really adamant about that. If you cheat Google and they catch you, they'll knock your domain out and you'll never get listed on Google ever again. This can be somewhat damaging to a company, like just a little bit, huh? So on page 362, Elizabeth Castro talks more about keywords. Now she's talking as meta tags, but I'm talking about keywords that are built throughout the page, search engine keywords.
Does Google look at things that you haven't bold too? As keywords?
Yeah, Google will look at the actual text. It won't care if they're bold or not. I don't think. Now again, all of these mathematical formulas that Google and the other search engines use are ultra top secret, and they keep tweaking them. They keep changing and tweaking them. So it might be very possible that if they see the strong tag or the bold tag, then they'll give more emphasis to those words. I wouldn't put it past them. That's very feasible. On page 369, and I don't cover it anymore in this class, but it's something to definitely start looking into, is building a site map. If you go out to modern sites that are well built, you'll see a link for a site map. And basically, this gives Google and the other search engines a structure showing how your website is laid out. I keep reminding myself to put this in as a requirement for the capstone. But sitemaps are very, very good because it helps the search engines decide how your page is laid out, again, based on keywords and other factors. She has 2 pages from 370 to 372 for improving your ranking by getting linked. Now, she goes into it a lot better, but just real briefly, what the guys from Google came up with is they were looking at papers that people were publishing at universities, professors and stuff. And whenever we create a paper like for a doctorate dissertation or a master's degree, we go and find out the experts, and then at the bottom of the paper, we list the experts. And we say, well, this is what this expert said, and this is what that expert said. Well, what you find out really, really quickly is there's like 1 or 2 experts in every field, and they're getting cited in every paper. So Sergey looked at this and he says, why don't we do that for web pages? So what they do is they have a mathematical formula that looks to see who's linking to your web page and how important they are. Now, if you all link to my web page, say from your temporary web server, that's nice, but it's not as effective as if IBM linked to my web page from IBM.com. All of a sudden, my SEO is going to shoot up because IBM is saying, hey, look at WebExplorations. This is really a valuable site to IBMers. And IBM is really important in this field. And then my SEO goes skyrocketing. Different ways that people are building this into their websites are names like, you probably never heard of this website before, Facebook, Twitter. And that's why you see businesses out there. That's why I'm out there with WebExplorations. Because every time I put something on Facebook and Twitter, it gives me more points pointing back to my website. So it gives me higher SEO. Near the end of the semester, you'll learn about blogs and how to create WordPress. So you can set up blogs for your client. And every time I post an article on my blog, I usually point back to someplace on my website or back to Computer Careers. And that just gets us higher up on the search engine. So it's kind of like a voting mechanism that the more I talk about my website and the more other people talk about my website, for instance, YouTube, I put a video on YouTube and all of a sudden I have 1 million hits. That's going to generate a lot of interest. And you all know who owns YouTube, right? Google. Google owns YouTube. They only paid several billions of dollars for it. But by getting 1 million hits out on YouTube, I'm generating interest and SEO on my website. So do you all see how all this plays in? So SEO isn't any just one thing. It's doing several different techniques. And then on page 373, Elizabeth Castro talks about helping your client get more hits on his or her site. And the second to the last one is probably the most effective. Who can tell me what the second to the last one is? On page 373. Make sure your website's URL is on your stationery. Business cards, what else? Pamphlets. In fact, if she really wanted to say this strongly, she should have said you should tattoo it on all your employees' foreheads and give it on gift cards. So what you want to get across to your client and your business partners is they should be printing their URL virtually everywhere. And here's a secret that's just now starting to catch on. But with a URL, with a web address, a domain address, you can use upper lowercase. So, and you'll see in when we get into this more, you'll see some websites that are really silly because you can read them a couple different ways. But if you use camel case, upper lowercase, then we can say South Central, and it's with a capital S, capital C, makes it much, much more readable. And it still works no matter how people type it in. So that's a really good start. This chapter is an excellent start on search engine optimization.